Okay, so this proves the first part of our result. Now we move to the second part. In the second part, the set A is already decomposed as a union of disjoint non-empty subsets. We have to, from that we have to find an equivalence relation whose equivalence classes are going to be precisely those subsets. Okay, next let P be a collection of non-empty subsets of A that are mutually disjoint. That is, you take any two sets from that collection, they are disjoint. And are such that their union is A. Now, using this information, we are going to define an equivalence relation. For A comma B belonging to A, we define A to be related to B if A and B belong to, what should I write? Let me write P1 for some P1 belonging to P. Keep in mind that the elements in capital P are themselves sets. They are subsets of A. Each one is non-empty. They are mutually disjoint and their union is A. So we are saying that two elements in A are defined to be related if they belong to the same set in P. That is the same subset of A that is there in P as an element. Now, first of all, we have to prove that this is an equivalence relation. Okay. Let A belonging to A be any element. So let us first show that the relation is reflexive. Since A equals the union of all the sets in P, we have A belongs to P1 for some P1 belonging to P. So do you understand the thing here? There are some sets which are disjoint. These sets make up the collection P and their union is A. So we have, say, P1, P2, P3, like this. There are many. Okay. How many we don't know, but there are many. Now the thing is that since the element A is in A, so A will definitely belong to one of these sets because their union is A. So there we will find one subset P1 of A which is in P and which contains this element A. So that's how we are getting A belonging to P1. but then A and A, we are just okay, this may look silly, but just like A and B belonging to P1, we have A and A belonging to P1, which implies A is related to A, and this is true for any element A in A. So that means A is related to A for every A in capital A. Hence, the relation tilt is reflexive. Next, let A and B be two elements in A such that A is related to B. Then they belong to some set P2 this can also be written like this: B and A belong to P2 where P2 is an element in P. Thus, B is related to A, and the relation is symmetric. Okay, next we have to prove transitivity. So let A, B and C be three elements in A such that A is related to B and B is related to C. Then there exist two subsets or two elements in P, P3 and P4 in P such that A and B belong to P3 and B and C belong to P4 by the definition of these relations. Now, since B belongs to P3 intersection P4 and the elements in P means subsets of A, not all subsets, some subsets, and the condition is that these subsets that are in P are mutually disjoint. So if you have two different subsets, then they will be disjoint, there will be no element in common. So here you see that we have got two subsets P3 and P4 which have an element in common B. So that means they cannot be disjoint, that is they have to be the same thing. Elements in P are mutually disjoint we must have P3 is equal to P4, but then A and C both belong to P3 which is nothing but P4. You see, because A belongs to P3 and B belongs to P4, and now it turns out that these two are equal. Thus, according to our definition of the relation, A is related to C, and so the relation tilt is transitive. We have thus proved that this is an equivalence relation on A. Okay, so what else do we have to prove? We now have to prove that the equivalence classes of this relation are precisely this P1, P2, P3, all the elements in P. Okay. Next, we prove that the collection of all the equivalence classes is precisely P. This is what we want to prove now, and that will complete the proof. In the text, the proof is not complete, and I think one part has been asked in the exercises, but since we have started proving this, let us just finish this. I don't in fact remember which part has been left out in the text. So now we have to prove that the equivalence classes are the things that make up P. How can we prove this? Okay. So let Q belonging to P be any element. That means Q is a subset of A that occurs in the collection P. And keep in mind that the elements in P, that is the subsets we have in P, each one of them is non-empty. So Q is also non-empty. Since Q is non-empty, there exists some element, say Q belonging to Q. We will now show, we claim that Q is actually equal to the class of this element with respect to the relation that we have defined here. Right. Note that for any say P, any element P belonging to Q, we have P and Q both belonging to Q, and hence by the definition of our relation says what? Any two elements that belong to the same set in P are related. Now P and Q are in the same set in P, and that set is Q, so they should be related. We have P is related to Q. This implies that P belongs to the class of Q. Actually, you may say that I should have had Q related to P to write this, but since the relation is symmetric, we have already proved all those things, so this and this are true, both are true, so we don't have to bother about that. So this implies this. So you see that any element in Q is now in class of Q. Thus Q is a subset of class of Q. Next, let R be any element in the class of Q. Then Q is related to R, and so Q and R both belong to T for some T belonging to P. This is by applying the definition of this relation. Both of these elements belong to the same subset occurring in P. We don't know what this T is, but there is some T, since these two are related. Now, since you see R belongs to class of Q, R also belongs to T. So R belongs to, no, that's not the thing. What I am trying to say is this. No, that is not the thing. My point is to prove that this T is actually equal to Q, this Q. So what belongs to Q? I think I have confused myself. We already have considered Q and we have got one part of the containment. So that means Q is there, and okay, this thing I already have. Q belongs to Q. That is fixed. That is always true. From there I started the things. So now Q also belongs to T. So yes. Now since Q belongs to both Q and T, and distinct elements in the collection P are disjoint, so that means since these two are not disjoint, so they cannot be distinct, they have to be the same thing. We must have Q is equal to T. Okay. Hence, so that means what? You see, R belongs to T. So now we have R belongs to Q. So any element in class of Q is contained in Q. Thus, let me write here. Thus, class of Q is a subset of Q. So now we have these two inclusions, these two containments. Hence, Q is equal to class of Q. What have we proved here? We have proved that every element in P, which is a subset of A, is an equivalence class. Next, we have to show that these are the only equivalence classes. That is, if I come across an equivalence class, then that has to appear in P as a set. Okay, so next let what can I take? B, C, D. Let us take D belonging to A, B, any element, so that I can consider the class of D, and I have to prove this class of D belongs to P. This is what I have to prove. Okay. Then D belongs to, say, U for some U belonging to P. And what is the reason? This is because A equals the union of all the elements in P. So the elements in P means they are subsets of A. Their union is A. So any element you take in A, that element will belong to some subset coming from P. So let U be such a subset that contains D. Okay. We now show that class of D is equal to U. That's how that's how we will prove that class of D belongs to P, because U is an element in P. Since class of D will now be proven to be U, so this will belong to P, and we will be done. And the procedure is just like this, but anyway, for the sake of completeness, let me carry out all the steps. Let E be any element in class of D. Then D is related to E, and so D and E, according to the definition of our relation, D and E belong to phi for some phi belonging to P. Since okay, so D belongs to U and D also belongs to V. Since D belongs to U intersection V, and again same thing, distinct elements in P are disjoint, we must have U is equal to V. Okay, I thought I will be able to quickly prove this, but it's taking time anyway. So we now have U is equal to V. I am also getting confused. This is so huge. Our aim is to prove that E belongs to U. Okay. E belongs to V, and V has now been proven to be equal to U. Thus, E belongs to V, which is equal to U. So any element in this class, we have proved that that element is in U also. Hence, class of D is contained in U. Conversely, let F be any element in U. Okay, and I believe there is yes. You see, D also belongs to U. Since we also have D belongs to U. So D and F will be related because they belong to the same set that is an element in P. So by the definition of our relation, D is related to F. Which implies that F belongs to the class of D. So F is any element in U, it belongs to the class of D now. Thus, U is contained in class of D. So this is one inclusion, this is the other inclusion. So class of D is equal to U and this belongs to P. So not only have we proved that the elements in P are equivalence classes, but we have also proved that any equivalence class is also in P. So P is precisely the collection of all equivalence classes. So that is our final conclusion. Hence, P is precisely the collection of all equivalence classes. And here the proof ends. Now to illustrate the proof in a somewhat brief manner, let us take an example. In fact, we can take the examples that we have already seen before this theorem, and I would like to take that one where our A is the set of all integers and for any two A and B in A, we define A is related to B if A minus B is even. Now the equivalence classes we have already seen, there are two equivalence classes, class of 0 and class of 1. What type of elements are there in class of 0? You see, if I take A in class of 0, that is equivalent to this 0 is related to A, or since our relation is an equivalence relation, A is related to 0 if and only if A minus 0 is even, if and only if A is even. So every integer in class of 0 is an even integer. What about class of 1? Let me use another letter. B belongs to class of 1 if and only if 1 is related to B, if and only if B is related to 1, if and only if B minus 1 is even, if and only if B is odd. So every element in class of 1 is an odd integer. Okay. Now from the theorem that we have proved, the union of these two classes is nothing but the set of all integers. So A is equal to class of 0 union class of 1. They are non-empty, of course, because this contains, not just contains, it consists of all even integers, and this consists of all odd integers. Their union is the set of all integers, and they are disjoint because there is no integer that is simultaneously even and odd. So the first part of the theorem is true in this case. Of course it will be true, it's just an illustration of the situation, general situation. Conversely, for the converse, however, I cannot take something like this. Conversely, it is this. Suppose you have a set A and A has been compartmentalized into disjoint regions which are non-empty. Say I name them also P1, P2, P3, P4, P5, P6, P7, P8, and P is the collection of these compartments. These are nothing but subsets of A. P6, P7, P8. The property, the properties of this collection P are this. Each Pi is non-empty. Any two Pi's you take, there is no common element, they are disjoint. And the union of all the Pi's is A. If such a collection is given, that's what we had here, P. Then we can define an equivalence relation for which these are the equivalence classes, and the equivalence relation that we have defined for this purpose is just this. You take any two elements A and B in A, they will be here somewhere. Suppose A is here and B is here. If they belong to different Pi's, then they are not related. If they belong to the same Pi, then they are related. We have been able to prove that this relation is an equivalence relation, and the equivalence classes that this relation generates, they are nothing but these subsets. Okay, so given an equivalence relation, we can partition A into compartments like this. Conversely, given a partition of A like this, we can define an equivalence relation for which the equivalence classes are precisely this. So that is the fundamental theorem of equivalence relation. They are used to divide the things, the elements of a set into equivalence classes, which can then be thought of as, all the elements in this class can be thought of as the one same thing. We will use this idea again and again, not only in this book but in general in mathematics. The concept of equivalence relations and this linkage between such a relation and a compartmentalization of A or a partition of A, this theorem, this is the actual essence of equivalence relation. The fact that such a relation can decompose A like this is why equivalence relations are important. Okay, so with this I end this video. In the next part we will look at the exercises. Okay.